My name is Heath Johnson, and among the many interests that I have and that I share on this channel, being a faith reconstructionist is probably the most difficult for me to share, at least historically it has been. If I had to guess, it's likely due to the personal nature of such a topic, and also due in a certain aspect to how divisive these issues can get rather quickly. Nevertheless, it's a big interest of mine and one that I spend a lot of time in my personal life researching and developing and thinking through. And I thought I'd start a small, series of videos on the topic. This is the first of hopefully many. And I want to talk to those that may be newly deconstructing from their faith, or perhaps those that have been in it for a few years and or maybe even longer than that, and are just kind of feeling a bit lost on is it even worth considering thinking through what I believe on my faith at all, or is it just something that's just in the trash and in my past and I've completely moved on from it entirely? Those are kind of where I'd like to start. So that's what I want to do is just offer some insights that have helped me, and things that I've kind of worked through and thought through in my process. I'm about, just for those that don't know, I'm a former pastor. I left being a pastor, I would say, almost 15, 16 years ago now. And it's been a long journey and a long process getting from there to here. There were definitely moments and times along that path and along that journey where I just kind of said, screw it, I'm never thinking about it again. It's just something that's my past, something I don't believe anymore, and there's nothing of value in anything that I was taught previously. As I've grown up and as I've thought through a lot of things and gone through that, just this process, I started to see that there's some that might not be entirely true, that there might be some things that I need to rethink and really process through in my deconstruction that perhaps I threw out too quick, for lack of better words. So what I want to do is just offer some insights that have helped me, and perhaps they can help you. And they might not. I mean, that's the beauty of deconstructing, and everyone's journey, and is that everything's unique and everyone has their own path. So with that said, these are just the things that have helped me, and I'm just going to share them with you. Real quick though, before I do, I'm going to start doing these on a regular basis. Like I said, it's been difficult up until now, but it's just something I'm going to start doing regardless of how awkward it is at the very beginning. I'm sure I'll develop and get better as I go on, and also just as insecure as I feel doing these at the start. Confidence comes with experience, I would guess, right? So perhaps I'll start doing these on like a bi-monthly basis, and just going from there. So if you wanna catch the latest episodes and the latest as they drop, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Alongside videos like this, you'll see that I post videos regarding my music career, hobbies and interests, and things that I do, podcast interviews that I have in my podcast called the Heath Bar. But ching. Subscribe now if you don't want to miss out on those. Anyway, that is enough of that pitch there. So moving on, if you're embarking on this journey of deconstruction, or maybe you are in the thick of it, and like I said, you're feeling a little bit lost, I want to offer 4 beacons, or insights that could help guide you through this storm, things that have helped me. So the first I want to talk about is chart your own course. When I first started this process, I noticed there was a plethora of ex-pastors, ex-Christians, people that kind of were all experiencing the same things I was feeling and I was going through. And they quickly went from being leaders in the church to trying to be leaders in this deconstruction process and deconstruction movement. To a certain extent, I can't fault them. I mean, the world we live in certainly allows for that type of thing to happen. But in a lot of my experience, they were trying to present themselves as guides, almost like life coaches, if that's the way to put it. They were like these deconstruction coaches. There's even curriculums and classes and books and a lot of different things that you can pay, and they will help walk you through your deconstruction process and kind of thing. And what I've noticed with a lot of those is it usually ends up into their benefit. Very similar to how at least I think about the celebrity preacher movement and the mega church movement. Not even the mega church movement, just a lot of your evangelical churches and the way that they operate. It's a profit-based business, profit-focused business. And so they create these content, they create these things, and then they sell it as a service to someone who, arguably, when you're starting your deconstruction process, you're in an incredibly vulnerable state, and you see someone that comes along and says, "Hey, I felt the exact same thing. I know exactly what you're going through. In fact, I wrote a book about it, or I built a class about it, or I offer my services as a counselor for it or whatever," and you sign up, and then before you know it, you're basically in the same thing that you just left. You've got this leader, and you've got a group of people following this leader, and it's easy for that to become your map instead of letting your map become your own, because your path is yours. There's no one that can really point to and say this is the way to do it. And that even in this video that I'm posting, these are nothing short of just beacons to take at what you will. But in no way is this something that you should take it just, yep, this is gospel truth because this worked for this guy. No, absolutely not. There's a process to this and a journey to this. And what I would say is the allure of deconstruction coaches, it's tempting, especially when it's someone who has a depth of knowledge in what it's like being in the church. This is something that I could easily try and do and become. I'm not going to. It's one of those things where it's like, I feel that these types of insights and this journey and what's happening in the evangelical church and with the movement of just people flooding out of its doors, I don't see that as something that's worth profiting on. I think there's things that there's insights to be shared freely. I think and I felt this way even when I was a pastor. I always had a struggle with the idea of being a pastor only and not having a job outside of the church. It just seemed like you weren't really connected. You weren't really a part of the community you were trying to lead. You were something else. And there's pros and cons to that, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. So, and in a lot of ways, I feel it's the same way with the people that try to profit off of this deconstruction movement. It's going to sound kind of mean, but for lack of any actual other skills, they just repackaged the experiences and skills and knowledge that they had in learning about being a leader in Christianity, and they just painted over it, but they're still doing the same thing that they did prior to it. They're not actually doing anything different. They're just finding a different flock to have follow them. So if I can offer any kind of insight into that before I move on to the next one, is just be aware of that temptation because it can potentially be misleading. You're trying to rebuild your faith. Maybe you're not even in the process where you're trying to rebuild your faith, but you're trying to think through what just happened. You don't believe what you thought was foundational truths anymore. The last thing you want to do is jump into someone else trying to guide you. What I would recommend and what I would suggest is sit in that and let everything settle, let everything die. Whatever it is that you believed, or whatever faith you're coming out of, let it all die Let it all deconstruct. Let it all just disappear out of your life entirely. Because I would say you're not really ready to start walking this path of deconstruction until you've really know for sure that everything is done, and behind you in that step. And also, you don't really know what you want yet. So having someone try to lead and guide you, it almost feels like, to pull a Bible metaphor, a fisherman with a net sees a bunch of fish flopping around. What the hell am I supposed to do now, and everything like that, and they just snag them up and take them. Before you know it, you're on someone else's path and journey. You're not even on yours anymore. You're completely out of it. So take time. Draw your own map. Don't follow someone else's journey, and chart your own course. So that would be beacon 1. Chart your own course. If I could name it something. Let's start with number 2. This is one I see a lot, especially online. Avoid the extremes. It is very easy when you are leaving your faith or deconstructing your faith, especially if you're doing so out of pain caused towards you and hurt, to jump to the exact opposite of whatever it is you believed prior. This is usually done reactionary, and it's usually done in anger. And anyone would tell you, whatever the topic may be, if you're making a decision based out of anger and fear or frustration or whatever the case may be, it's probably going to be the wrong choice. So avoid those extremes. Don't just jump to the exact opposite viewpoint. If you, were fairly conservative in your evangelical faith because of, the ideologies that were taught to you at that point, don't just jump to the ultra progressive view that is the exact opposite of those things. For a lot of reasons. One, if you're jumping that quick in that short of amount of time, you're not thinking through if you actually believe the viewpoints you're now going to uphold and do. You're doing so out of, like I said, frustration and anger. And you can't actually acknowledge any of the understanding around those concepts and views because you've spent no time researching why somebody would hold this view. In most cases, you're just doing so because you were told this was wrong, so now I'm going to do the exact wrong thing because I don't believe that these people were telling me the truth. And likely they weren't. I mean, there's a lot of things I was taught and even preached when I was in evangelicalism that was just flat out lies. But that doesn't mean that the exact opposite of that is the truth either. I would say there's a rich middle ground of your own complex beliefs, things that you believe and things that you hold. I call this independent. If I were to put this into words, I would call it independent spirituality. The idea of having ownership on what you believe that maybe doesn't adhere to an ideological standpoint of any major viewpoint or thing in the world. The Substack that I write that is about all of these, I call it Heathenology. It's a play on my name, of course, but the idea of a heathen is someone who doesn't subscribe to a major world religion, right? They're very specific in their thoughts and beliefs, and they don't buy into things. They think through things independently. They're spiritually autonomous. That kind of idea. And I think that is where a lot of growth and development comes in this journey. It's not just jumping to, well, here's my options of what I'm allowed to believe and can think that I believe, but I think it's, those are things that usually people jump to when they haven't put any thought behind it. They look at what's offered in the world as far as religions go and faith goes and beliefs go and ideologies go. And yeah, I include agnosticism and atheism in that, even though it's the antithesis of belief in God or a higher power or anything like that. It's still a belief system. So they look at these and they say, these are my options, and they just pick one and they say, well, this is where I was. I'm going to pick this one because this is the opposite of that. And they don't actually grow in that process there. So the idea is that you would before you just jump ship and jump onto the very next boat, you kind of stay in that purgatorious middle ground, if I could use that word, and really just sit in the understanding that you have no freaking clue what you believe anymore. You don't know. And before you just believe something, you're going to, from this point forward, make it something that you believe, and you know why you believe it, because you've done the research, you've done the soul work. Let's use that word, to really grasp why you believe what you believe, instead of just believing it because it's now what your new group believes, so you adhere to that. Because I mean, if you listen to how I say that, it's, yeah, this is what this group believes, so I believe this. I don't like this group because of A, B, and C, so I'm going to believe what this group believes. Like it's the exact same thing, just with a different coat of paint. So don't do that, I would say. So avoid extremes. If you jump from one to the other, you're just trading one ideology for another. So just stay in that uncomfortable space, and it might be a while. It was over a decade for me. But it was certainly worth it, and certainly of value. Like there's things that I believed as an evangelical, that I still believe today. Not hardly any of it, but there were a few nuggets and few insights in there that really, actually I think that aligns with what I believe. Just like there's things from the exact opposite viewpoints that actually align with what I believe too. So with that, beacon 3. Let's go to the third one. I would say, I'm going to call it dive deep, because I believe that deconstruction isn't just about dismantling all your belief systems and tearing things down and everything like that. I think when you're talking about this, when you're talking about true deconstruction, I think it demands a disciplined, deep dive into your beliefs. Kind of goes to what I was talking about in point 2. It requires patience, a critical engagement beyond surface level critiques. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to rebuild a more authentic spirituality, and maybe not even a spirituality. You're trying to rebuild a more authentic version of yourself that is what you believe inside is actually how you're portraying your life outside, and they're aligned with each other. And that doesn't happen without deep dives into what your core beliefs are, what your core systems are. And yes, it does involve dismantling boards and bricks piece by piece, but it also involves, as you pull those bricks and boards off the structure that you had, you're analyzing them, you're looking through them, you're seeing if it's worth it, or maybe it is worth it, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to be sanded off of it. So you clean it up and you say, this is actually the core that I actually believe, and the rest of the stuff I don't. So I'm going to put this back and keep that in there. So that's a key element, and that comes with time. I would say time is your biggest friend, because you're not in a rush. There's no hurry for you to resolve. Arguably there's never any resolution anyway, right? That's kind of the point. So you're not in any rush to, I got to find something else to believe and cling and hold on to, because right now I am in this anxious state of not knowing what I believe or anything like that. Like, that's okay. Be in that anxious state. Let that anxiety settle, knowing that you don't have to make quick decisions in this process. You have your entire life. And if your life is cut short for some horrific reason, God forbid, God forbid, that's okay too. Like, your journey isn't something that has to be, oh, I made it. Like, no, it's an ongoing process. And so just calm yourself down, take the time to dive deep into what you think you believe and why you believe what you believe, because then you're going to have an answer when people ask you. And that's nice. I'll say that, 16, 15 years outside of this, when people ask me why I left or why I believe what I believe now, it's nice to be at the point where I'm beginning to have like very clear answers to give them. Like, well, here's why I don't believe that anymore and why I believe this. And then lastly, the fourth beacon I would say is to stay anchored. This is a key one. This is actually something I adopted out of the mystic traditions. Is mindfulness and reflection. They kind of act as a compass, and they kind of act as this internal anchor on who you are and what you're trying to achieve, through as a guide through the uncertainties towards your pursuit of truth. The maintaining that focus and that clarity. It's something that has to be done intentionally. If you are constantly scrolling through, memes that are critiquing your previous faith, or you're constantly, following and commenting on people who are, recommending this or recommending that, or pointing out all the different flaws and all the different religious systems and institutions that we have built up as a society, what you're doing is you're inviting calamity, and you're inviting just muddiness into your head. The thing that I have found is when I get rid of all of that noise and all of those voices, and for you that would include my own, cut me out too, and just sit with a topic, something I want to really think on and meditate on, and be mindful of, on why I struggle with believing this, or why I don't believe this, why I do believe this. That type of reflection, it serves as an anchor. It's a way to navigate through this storm, and it gives you this sense of stillness and calmness, and in a lot of ways peace, that you're not going to find if you're constantly filling yourself with reasons to get angry and critiques that make you angry on why you left. You already know why you left in a lot of reasons, in a lot of ways. Those critiques that people have, the memes are hilarious. I freaking love them. But they're not beneficial in me progressing, because they're constantly pointing me back to what I left. Or they are reliant on this system. There's a few people that I've followed on Instagram and X now, and their whole model of their social media accounts is dependent on the evangelical church system staying relevant and staying active, because everything they do is built in a reaction to that, right? They have this relationship to each other, and what I wanted was to not even worry about whatever the evangelical church is doing and where they're going, because I wanted, what does my path look like without them entirely? I don't want to build something that is an offshoot of them, just, an angry, nitpicky offshoot, pointing fingers and shooting arrows back. I wanted to walk away entirely and find that freedom, and find that just openness and understanding outside of the walls of that type of structure. So that happens through just calm, mindful thinking, and that also alleviates a lot of the anxiety of just feeling like you don't know where you're going and what you're supposed to do. It helps you calm down. So those are the four things I'd say. Just you've got chart your own course, avoid the extremes, dive deep, and stay anchored. So as you're going through this, I love the metaphor of you're on a boat in the ocean that's very tumultuous, and you're taking each board of that boat off and reanalyzing it as you're also rebuilding it in the process. So like it's kind of a crazy metaphor, but it's the best thing I've been able to think of is describing is you're dismantling and rebuilding a boat in the middle of the storm out on the ocean. And yeah, that's kind of how it feels. But just remember, this deconstruction journey is not about finding new shores. It's not about finding a place for the boat to rest. It's about finding a way to guide your ship. Think of it as like, you're looking up at the stars and just finding something to guide you and something to point you in a direction that that is your own. So stay true, stay curious. I appreciate your watching this video, and hopefully some of this helps you. And if it doesn't, hey, that's okay too. It's certainly not meant for everyone. Like I said, everyone's got their own path and their own journey. Again, I'll ask though, if you do want to stay in touch and pay attention to the stuff that I've got going on here, please subscribe to the YouTube channel here, and then I also have a Substack at heathjohnson.substack.com. I'll have the link below, and we can stay in contact. And I'd love to hear from you as well, and maybe some of your journeys and your thoughts and things that you've experienced along the process. So yeah, chart your course, discover your truth. All those cliche ways to end a video. Cheers, everyone. See you next time.